Hello, everyone, and welcome to the winter section of Intro to the Counseling Professions, which is CEP 200. My name is Dr. Gray. I'm going to be your instructor for this section. I will say this section is a little tough because we are cramming a full semester's worth of work into 3 weeks. So it is going to feel like a lot, and I apologize for that, but hopefully we'll be able to get through it together. So the point of this video is to go through the syllabi as well as to talk a little bit about what the expectations are for the first units. I like to be pretty available to students, so if you ever have any questions or you need anything, just shoot me an email. I try to have all responses back to you within 48 hours. I try to actually do it a little bit sooner than that. I'm always kind of have my phone in my hand, so if I'm available and I don't have too much going on, I try to look through my email a couple of times a day. So if you email me, you don't get a response within 48 hours, shoot me an email again, but usually I'm pretty good with getting back. So let's start and go through the syllabus. So course description. What are we going to learn in this course? So sometimes students come into this course and they don't know exactly what to expect. They think that this course is about learning counseling interventions, counseling techniques, that kind of stuff. So that is actually not what we cover in this course. So like the title says, Intro to the Counseling Professions, we're really just talking about the different professions that are available in the counseling profession. So we're going to talk about, what is counseling? What is a counselor? What's the difference among counselors? What different settings do they work in? And what are the different credentials needed for each counseling professional? So what I do try to do, though, like I will say, we're going to go through mental health counselors, addiction counselors, family couples and families, marriage and couple counseling. We're going to go through child and adolescent counselors, school counselors, organizational counselors, career counselors, all types of counselors. So we're gonna cover a couple per unit. But what I do try to do is some of the supplemental material that is in the folders for you actually are a bit of exposure or some things or some types of patients that you might encounter while you're working in that counseling profession. So like, for example, in the child and adolescent unit, we're going to talk about the adverse childhood experiences and the implications of those studies and, the impact that those studies have had on our work. So you're going to get exposed to a lot of different information. So I know that like at face value, it sounds like, what is there to learn about the counseling professionals? I try to make it interesting and add some of that stuff in there for you. So as far as mode of instruction, all online. This is self-paced with due dates. So I will have videos for you for each week going through each of the units. And then, you can complete your work as you can throughout that week. So let's talk a little bit about the actual coursework. So in this course, we have 5 unit assignments, 4 discussion boards, 3 quizzes, 5 journal prompts, and 1 final paper. So the rule of thumb here is with this being an online course, it is really difficult to get that, like one-on-one student interaction, discussion, that kind of thing. So I know some people love discussion boards, some people hate discussion boards. We do have discussion boards where you will be commenting on 2 of your classmates' posts in addition to your initial post. So please keep that in mind. And then with like unit assignments and journal prompts and stuff like that, I really need to see some like evidence of like your thought process and how you're understanding and retaining some of the material. So I do require a word count. I didn't used to do this, a couple of years ago. I used to say, just give me like a very well thought out, thorough response. And I know that like, some of us just like need that like black and white directive. So I did implement a word count. So for each response in your unit assignment, so for each question and response, 250 words. For your discussion board post, 250 words. Your responses to your classmates, between 200 and 250 words. And then same for the journal prompts and responses. So those are only going to be seen by me, but please 200 to 250 words. So that's my rule of thumb. The paper, we'll get to that. Quizzes are very straightforward. So unit assignments, discussion boards, journals, just remember the number 250. So if you can get me responses around that, you should be good. So unit assignments, you're going to have a unit assignment for units 1 through 5. The discussion board in the quizzes, I tried to alternate a little bit. It doesn't always happen that way, but for one unit, you might have a discussion board. The next, you might have a quiz. Same with the journal prompts. So try to kind of mix it up a little bit so you're not having a unit assignment, a discussion board, a quiz, and a journal response every single unit. So again, just try to mix it up a bit. So unit assignments, these assignments are 20 points each. Your discussion board is worth 25 points. So the way that I break this down is your actual post to your response is going to be 15 points. Your responses to each of your classmates, each of those are going to be worth 5 points. So for a total of 25 for the whole thing. Each quiz is 25 points. Quizzes are untimed, but you only have one attempt to do them. This really helps with just like making sure there's like honest academic integrity, that you can't go back and reopen it or get the correct answers or anything like that. So quizzes are not meant to trick you. Have your materials in front of you and go through the quiz that way. So again, no time limit. This is also meant to meet any type of accommodations that students may need. So just make sure, take your time, have your materials in front of you. When I made these quizzes, I literally took each question straight from the text. So again, not meant to trick you by any means. Journal prompts, those are going to be worth 20 points. And then your final paper is an advocacy paper. It is worth 125 points. And what I mean by that is, within one of the earlier units, you are going to post the topic of your paper. Once you get that approved, you get 25 points right off the bat, just by telling me your topic. And then the paper is worth 100 points. So the reason I do that is because I just like to make sure that everyone's topic is appropriate and they understand what the paper entails, so that at the end of the semester, you're not doing a paper completely off the mark and then essentially failing the course because you didn't do well on the paper. So just like to put that out there. I don't think, the only other thing that I will mention is, so with the videos that I do for each week, in the video, I'm going to include the topic for your journal prompt that week, as well as the response for 2 quiz questions for any unit that has a quiz. The reason I do that is because it really encourages students to watch these videos, because there is a lot of important information. So I like there to be some kind of incentive, or, just giving students a reason to watch them. So you will be rewarded with some things by doing that. So going down a little bit, I'm getting to the part of assignment extensions. So with this only being 3 weeks, I would highly encourage you to stay on top of everything. If you do need an extension, you do need to request an extension before the due date for that chunk of units. This prevents students from falling behind and then coming back later and requesting to be able to kind of catch up and do all the work without, any kind of accommodation or anything like that. So just to keep things honest and fair, you have to request an extension before the due date of whatever units you're requesting. So again, the workload is going to be really heavy. So I would really go against requesting an extension, but they are available to you. Things happen, life happens, stuff comes up. I get that. So let's keep going. So taking a look at any type of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, anything like that, using any type of generative AI tools is considered a violation of UB's academic integrity policies. But you can use spell checkers, auto annotations, stuff like that to make sure that your work sounds good. That's allowed, but just make sure that, you're not using AI to complete assignments. You're not using previous assignments from other courses or other students who took this course. We do have things in place in our grading system that will catch any type of plagiarism, use of AI, all that kind of stuff. So those conversations have to happen at least once every semester. And I hate them. And I know that they're not comfortable for students. So please just don't do it. Make everything easy for the both of us. So let's keep going down. Now we are at the point of the course schedule. So while we take a look here, we are going to be covering 3 units per week. So we are going to be starting today on the 27th, and then we conclude the unit on the 3rd, which is what, Thursday, Friday? So you get just about 1 week per 3 units. So if you take a look at the course tracker, Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3 are all going to be due on January 3rd. So I also create a checklist here of all of the things that you need to make sure that you accomplish. So first and foremost, there was an intro unit. It looks like everyone took a look at this and posted in the discussion board. If you didn't, please just make sure you do this. Review the syllabus, make sure you get the materials, watch the welcome video, read chapter 1, and then complete discussion board number 1. Just introduce yourself, acknowledge that you've reviewed the course requirements material. So your journal prompts are going to be in the tracker as well as in the unit folder where the assignments are listed. So for Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. Unit 1, we're going to be talking about the counseling profession. So this is just an intro to what it is to be a counselor. Unit 2, what happens in counseling. But this is where we're going to start talking about the actual counseling professions. So in Unit 2, we're going to talk about clinical mental health counselors and addiction counselors. And then in Unit 3, we're going to talk about counseling in the vocation. So this is where we see rehabilitation counselors and career counselors. So for anyone who doesn't know the word vocation, this is usually associated with working, employment of some sort. So for Unit 1, you are going to read Chapter 2, review the Code of Ethics, which you don't have to go through and read this word by word. This is just like an overall general idea. So take a look at the topics, the different areas of the Code of Ethics. Your Unit 1 assignment is going to ask you to identify ones that are the most interesting to you or the ones that you think are the most violated. So pay enough attention to see, just get the gist of what it is. You're going to read you're going to read 2 supplemental articles, watch the TED Talk by Brene Brown, complete the Unit 1 assignment, complete journal reflection number 1, and then complete quiz number 1. So let's talk a little bit about your first journal prompt. So the first journal prompt that you are going to respond to is, the APA requires some accredited programs to incorporate cultural competency training into their curricula. In what formats do you think such training would be most effective or beneficial? So, for example, there is multicultural courses. Some might go to different events in the community where you're interacting with different patients or clients from various cultural backgrounds. What format would you personally prefer to learn about different cultures and multiculturalism in counseling? So that's just the response there. So remember, 250 words for that. The next thing here, I'm going to open the unit. Let's take a look at quiz number 1. Oops, I did not mean to do that. So let's see here. Why? It's just giving me a hard time. Okay. So let's take a look here as far as the 2 questions that I'm going to give you. So what I try to do is I try to pick out the 2 questions that students typically have a tough time with, because like I said, I don't want quizzes to be tricky. They're meant to be straightforward. So the first quiz question is, a professional counselor is considered to be a clinician with a master's degree or higher. The answer to this for the quiz is true. So you can go to, you can get a bachelor's degree in psychology or, whatever that is. But if you're going to go into the counseling professions, you cannot actually get licensed or anything like that without a master's degree. So these are considered the professional counselor level. With that being said, we're going to find out a little bit more about this stuff, like a CASAC, a certified substance and alcohol abuse counselor, can get credentialed without a master's degree, but that's a certification as opposed to a license, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So the other question is, when considering diagnosis, it is required for counselors to consider the client's blank blank, as this affects the manner in which clients' problems are defined and experienced. So the answer to this is cultural experience. I believe that the text might say something along the lines of like cultural experiences, socioeconomic status, or something like that. But the big thing that I want you to get here is the cultural experience. So mental health may present differently among cultures, and also depending on what that culture's belief system is. So we always want to talk about the cultural experience when we are considering diagnosis as a counselor. So those are the 2 questions there for you for quiz number 1. Let's take a look at unit number 2. So these are your clinical mental health and addiction counselors. So read chapters 3 and 6. Watch a short video about what happens in counseling, read a supplemental article, complete the unit 2 assignment, complete discussion board number 2, and then complete journal reflection number 2. So the thing with clinical mental health counselors and addiction counselors is sometimes the credentials are the same, but sometimes they're different. And this is where it gets a little tricky. So when we look at licensure versus certification, licensure is usually done per state in the counseling profession. So for example, I am a licensed mental health counselor in New York State. And in other states such as California, they're considered LPCs, which is a licensed professional counselor. So in our country, some states recognize the NCMHCE exam, the National Mental Health Exam, as the licensing exam, which would give someone their license in mental health counseling as an LMHC, whereas other states in the country take a look at, I believe it's the NBCC or the NCC exam, that would credential someone as a licensed professional counselor. So basically what it is it's a difference in the different national exams that you take. So half the country recognizes LMHCs, the other half of the country recognizes an LPC. And the benefits of having a license is that you can bill insurance for a number of different services. So mental health counselors can provide mental health counseling. They can provide integrated with like addiction counseling, marriage counseling, adolescent counseling. Like there's a lot of different things that someone could specialize in as an LMHC. If we're looking at just addiction counseling, there is a New York State certification, which is a CASAC, a certified substance and alcohol abuse counselor. And these certifications were meant for people who maybe struggled with addiction themselves and didn't go and get the traditional education. They can actually apply to get a CASAC. They would have to complete a number of education hours, experience hours, and all of those things, but not necessarily required to have a master's degree. CASACs in New York State can bill insurance, but they cannot provide mental health counseling or any other type of counseling outside of their scope. So it's a little bit more limited if you're doing just substance use counseling. You can be a CASAC, but it is very limiting in some areas. So that is the difference with the certification and the licensure. Licensure, you usually have no problem with billing for insurance, whereas certifications make it a little bit more difficult. And we'll talk a little bit about that because in Unit 3, we're going to talk about rehabilitation counselors. They also have a nationwide certification and in most cases cannot bill insurance in New York State. So let me talk a little bit about the journal reflection for journal number 2. So for journal number 2, we are taking a look a little bit early about the advocacy paper. So the advocacy paper is going to be your final paper. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that probably in the next video. But with the advocacy paper, I want you to identify a population that you would consider to be vulnerable. So this could be the homeless population. This could be children with significant trauma, those who are addicted to substances, children in the foster care system, minorities, immigrants, whatever it is. I want you to choose a population. However, for the journal reflection for number 2, we are considering the topic for our advocacy paper. But what I want to make sure is that we all know what is meant by the term advocacy and what it looks like. So for this journal reflection, when you hear the term advocacy, what comes to mind and how can we advocate for others? That is going to be the prompt for journal number 2. All right, so let's take a look now for Unit 3. So again, rehabilitation counselors and career counselors, these are our vocational counselors. Rehabilitation counselors, and this is going to be a question within the unit, rehabilitation counselors are actually a little bit different than our traditional counselors because their role is to help individuals, in most cases, figure out a vocation. What I mean by that is like it could be someone who doesn't know what they want to do and need to take some vocational tests and stuff like that. However, typically rehabilitation counselors, so say you have an individual who's been working in a particular profession for their entire life. Say they work in a factory. One day they get hurt on the job and they learn that they are disabled and no longer able to perform the duties associated with that job. What that means is they're going to have to find a whole new profession or, a different position or something. And so what rehabilitation counselors do is they come in and they help individuals who may no longer be able to perform their previous job by identifying a new job and kind of exploring a different job that they can do for the rest of their lives or just until retirement or whatever that is. So they're a little bit different, but still very, very valuable. I myself am a rehabilitation counselor as well. So, sometimes CRCs can also focus in the scope of addiction and stuff like that. So, still a little bit of a larger scope and at times, but for the most part, they are employed by organizations and states that are looking for vocational rehabilitation counselors to help individuals either get a new job or even like access to things like Access VR, so like education accommodations, stuff like that. And again, as I was saying before, these counselors have a nationwide certification. So I completed the rehabilitation counseling program at UB and I took the nationwide certification. So no matter what state I move to, I am still recognized by my CRC, whereas for my license for mental health counseling, I'm only licensed in New York State. So if I were to move to a different state, I would have to reapply to be a licensed professional counselor in that state. Whereas my CRC certification is nationwide, so I don't have to worry about that across state lines. So I hope that makes sense. So for Unit 3, you're going to read chapters 4 and 11. You're going to watch a video on rehabilitation counseling as well as a TED Talk by Eleanor Longden. You're going to read 2 supplemental articles, complete the Unit 3 assignment, complete quiz number 2, and then post the topic of your advocacy paper in the appropriate discussion board. And again, that's going to be worth 25 points. For the advocacy topic, you don't have to write 250 words. You don't have to comment on 2 of your classmates' posts. This is the only one that has the exception. All you have to do is just write a few words of the topic of the population that you're going to be writing about for your final paper, and you get 25 points. So pretty easy. So let's just take a look at quiz number 2. and we will be able to give you the 2 questions and answers to this one. So, I know which ones I want, I just have to find them. All right, where? So the thing that I want you to remember for this quiz is there's multiple choice, but there's also some that have multiple answer. So make sure that you select all of those that are correct. Okay, so the first one is, which organization is responsible for overseeing the certification of rehabilitation counselors? This one's a little tricky, right? Because they are considered CRCs, Certified Rehabilitation Counselors. But the actual overseeing organization is CRCC. So remember that. That is an option on there. And then, where is the other one? Okay. As a career counselor, you will only discuss vocational topics with your clients. So for example, resume writing, career information, attending networking events, etc. The answer to this is false. So, if we're taking a look at like a hierarchy of, what you're going to learn in this unit is just like based on like what a person needs to feel fulfilled in their jobs and all of that, right? Like there's some basic needs that need to be met. So as a career counselor, you're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things with people, like, is their mental health keeping them from being able to have a job? Do we need to make a referral for mental health or physical health or something like that? So the answer here is false. You will not only discuss vocational topics with your clients in this profession. All right. So I think that is it for now. Like I said, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I know that this is a lot of work to be doing in 1 week. So, if you do need an extension, please let me know before January 3rd. And then we will pick up next week with Unit 4. This is probably my favorite unit of the class and generally a fan favorite among students. So I think that is everything that I wanted to cover. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions and we'll try to make this next 3 weeks as painless as possible. All right, everyone, take care.